as a result of Wednesday being a day when I'm not home, a lot of the news of the day that was in the first video today was technically from yesterday, and so I'm watching this stuff coming in today, and I'm like, you know what? Do a second news of the day video here so that you're not reporting on today's news tomorrow, and you don't get into this situation where you're always way behind on reporting the news. Just make the news of the day video a little bit later today, and then tomorrow it can be later in the day as well. It's one of those things that can happen with Wednesdays being busy and all. So what's come out since that first news of the day video? Gostisbehere is going to be out 3 weeks with knee surgery. That's going to gum things up in terms of Philadelphia's ability to move him if they're looking to move him. But 3 weeks doesn't take him up to the trade deadline. So hopefully he's okay. And hopefully this doesn't change any plans for the Philadelphia Flyers moving forward. He's been having a poor season, so maybe after a few weeks off, getting a chance to heal up, maybe things get better for him. Barrett Hayton's out week to week with a shoulder injury. So this has come out. I don't think any of us expected him to be healthy right now. It is amazing what he did for Team Canada. It is a thrilling story that a guy who could barely move was able to score a goal like that. But this lends itself to certain general managers or owners who might say, hey, we don't think the Olympics are a good idea for NHL players. Look what happened to this kid that goes to World Juniors. He gets hurt. And all we need is to have an Olympic tournament where one of our big stars gets hurt. And that is a concern for the National Hockey League and for owners who spend a lot of money on these guys' contracts, and they don't make any money at all off the Olympics. So we get into that discussion. I have a funny feeling the World Juniors plays a role in it. We see a guy come out like Hayton, who's a really highly thought of prospect, and you see a shoulder injury, and you go, "Gee, that's not great. We'd like to have him back in the lineup." So, wishing him a speedy recovery. I was going through the Seattle expansion tool on Cap Friendly. I posted it on the community page of the channel here, and the Minnesota Wild have a concern. They have 2 no movement clauses to Suter and Spurgeon. Now, depending on how they protect players, they can protect 8, which are forwards and defensemen together, or 7 forwards and 3 defensemen. Ideally, you want to protect 7 forwards and 3 defensemen. And according to that Cap Friendly tool, there could be some big names on that list. But the one that's most egregious to me is you have to protect either Dumba or Soucy, or if you're protecting them both, you're going to be exposing some pretty good forwards. That contract for Spurgeon, you know what? I'm not so angry about that Spurgeon contract from a contract perspective as somewhere, but a no movement clause, that's bad. Because it means that Seattle could be calling them before the draft and saying, so what's it gonna do? What's it gonna cost you guys? Are you willing to lose Soucy or Dumba or one of your highly rated young forwards because you have to protect them as well as the other 2 blue liners? We got to talk. And then, I mean, Minnesota's been through this in the last expansion draft, so I don't know how this works. And it does complicate things when it comes to the Capitals negotiating with Holtby, because they'd have to protect Samsonov. And does Holtby go as a goaltender to Seattle? And if you're GM McClellan, are you willing to take that risk? Do you sign Holtby knowing you may lose him the next summer? Or do you sign him to a contract that Seattle won't touch? When I was trying to figure out who would or wouldn't be available, there were a lot of veterans I wasn't protecting because I was looking at their contracts and thinking, Seattle's not going to want that guy. He's going to be 32 and he's going to be making $8-9 million. They're not going to want him. So it'll be very interesting about a year from now when we get really close to it. And that was part of the reason I didn't end up doing a video on it. I spent like 45 minutes on the site going through and drafting, and I thought, nah, it's not going to work because we're too far out. There's too many things left to figure out. There's too many free agents this summer and next summer. There's too many extensions left to be signed. So it's an interesting discussion. We can have that if you're a Wild fan. What do you think they do? Do they try to move Spurgeon beforehand because of that no movement clause? No movement clauses have to be protected. Why did he get a no movement clause? Did they not? It just doesn't make any sense to me. The contract and the length of it, sure, could be a little bit long and a little bit high, but that no movement clause is just a killer. All right, Eric Brandstrom's gaining some attention. He plays very well in Belleville. And his play in the American Hockey League is very strong. So while in the National Hockey League he sometimes looks overwhelmed, he's coming along very well at the AHL level. Now what's interesting is Vegas and their affiliate in the American League, Chicago Wolves, right? They were playing him mostly on the right side. He likes playing on the right side. But Pierre Dorian and DJ Smith like him on the left side. So if you're looking for maybe a reason he struggles with Ottawa, he may feel more comfortable playing on the right side than on the left. And so in the AHL, they're doing their best to make sure he's used to playing on the left. They feel that if he's playing on the right side, you're passing to his backhand too often. It's one of those things where if you're left-handed, they want you on the left. If you're right-handed, they want you on the right. If you're playing on your offhand, there's a feeling with at least with Dorian and Smith that makes you less effective. So Brandstrom, he'd like to play on the right. They got him on the left. So, Brandstrom saying all the right things about being happy, and of course he wants that chance at the NHL. But if he's more comfortable on the other side, does he eventually end up playing on the right side at the NHL level, just to give him a look and see how it might change things? Donskoy, this confirmed what we kind of knew was going on. Jonas Donskoy is in concussion protocol, so it's not just upper body injury. It is concussion protocol. Wishing him all the best and all of that wonderful stuff, of course, because he's one of my favorite players, and he was having a very good season. Cold lately compared to that start. He wasn't going to keep that start up. But, it is a hole in that lineup. But Colorado's used to having injuries this year. It's been quite common. If you're on Milestone Watch, I did track this down. Patrick Kane is at 993 points. I'm old. Patrick Kane's going to hit 1,000 points over the next couple of weeks. He could hit it over the next couple of games. Let's be honest. Patrick Kane is capable of scoring a lot of goals. So we'll see what happens with him. A lot of points, too. We'll see what happens with him over the next couple of weeks. NHL.com, they do their power rankings on Thursdays. So I was looking at it. This is a combination of a bunch of people voting. And Washington's at number 1. St. Louis is at number 2. Boston's still at number 3. And, I don't understand. The lowest they were rated by anybody was number 5. And I thought 5 is closer to reality, but still. And even in their ranking where they talk about Boston, they say, well, they've lost X amount of games and they're 0-6 in the shootout and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of loser points in there. They're not winning that many games lately. It's bewildering. They got Pittsburgh at 4, Islanders at 5, Tampa's at 6, despite their 8-game winning streak. They've got Colorado at 9, or 7. I have Colorado currently at 9. Vegas at 8. I think Vegas belongs higher than that. Toronto is at 9. So, Toronto right now is at 9th on their power rankings. So, there were some Leaf fans that weren't happy with them being 7th on my power rankings. I have them higher than 9th. You guys should like me. Arizona's at 10. That, to me, is too low. Dallas at 11. About right. 12 for Carolina. 13 for the Oilers. 14 for Calgary. 15 for Philly. 16 for Winnipeg. And just outside are Columbus, Vancouver, and Florida. I think with Vancouver, there's too much of a knee-jerk reaction to that Tampa game, because Vancouver was in the top 16 last week. This, to me, says that Tampa game where they lost 9-2, there are a lot of people going, all right, yeah, no, they're out. And again, that's where when I'm doing up my board and I'm looking at the end of the night, I go, I don't want to overreact to this one game. And that's both sides. I don't want to have a team based on one game where I go, oh, they're fantastic, and move them up 3 or 4 spots. And one team's really bad, move them down 3 or 4 spots. So Vancouver's out. Columbus being outside of the top 16. I'm not saying I have them that high in the top 16 on mine, but it just goes to show for Columbus fans who feel like they get disrespected, they probably do. The Capitals, and looking at it too, part of it really is standings, and I'm not saying this to say anything mean about the way these are done, but a lot of it is standings. people wake up, they look at the newspaper. Nobody reads the newspaper anymore. All right. They wake up, they turn on their desktop. Nobody uses desktop computers. Okay. So they wake up, they open their phone, and they look at the scores from the night before, and they look at the standings. And that's what happens a lot. And you might watch one game in any given night. You might watch, two. But in general, I don't expect that people are following absolutely everything religiously as I try to. And that's why Boston definitely gets rated higher than I think they should. And Arizona gets rated lower than I think they should. Arizona, maybe there's a perception that they've been the underdog for so long that 10 is about as high as people will put them. But again, the wonderful thing about these is that anybody can have a power rankings. Anybody can throw this together and say, here's what I think the top 15 teams, top 10 teams in the league are. And then we can have that debate about it. So there you go. NHL.com's power rankings. And I believe we're all caught up on the news for today. Until more news. I also wanted to mention, this is the first time I'm wearing this. This is a Tyler Seguin jersey that I got from Full Moon Jerseys. It was up for bidding. They had it for auction. And it's my size. And it was $20. And I was like, oh, all right. It's $20. So again, and I say this because I know people talk about how much does Shannon spend on jerseys. He must spend a ton. Look at them all. There are some jerseys that are more expensive than others, but sometimes you can find a deal for $20, and it's cheaper than the knockoff jerseys. It's cheaper than the ones that are $40, $50. And while yes, it's a Reebok Premier, so it's not an authentic and all this, it's still a nice enough shirt. I got it for playing the street hockey that we do. With the street hockey, I do sometimes worry if I'm bringing a really nice jersey. Well, if something happens, what if something happens to this jersey? I can't really replace it, or it's going to be expensive to replace. So that does kind of cross my mind here and there at times. And I thought this was not a bad deal for $20. Just like the Datsuk one that I got, that I did the Datsuk video wearing. I paid $25 for that. I think 25, maybe 30. So again, there are deals to be had. So Full Moon Jerseys, they do their. They usually have about 24 different jerseys up for auction at any given time, and it's a really cheap way to get a collection going when you don't have the money to really get a collection going. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I regret that I was unable to provide you with a Seattle expansion video. I wanted to do a Seattle expansion video, and I just could not find... I couldn't put together a team and put it up there without... I know people would have been like, well, that guy's not going to be available, and that guy's not going to be with that team, and that's going to... And so we're still too far out. But Minnesota's an interesting one. Because, yeah, that blue line, there's some work to be done by Bill Guerin, and he's going to have to see what he can do about that, because that just doesn't work. You can't risk losing Dumba or Susie. They're pretty key guys, that blue line going forward. Let me know your thoughts as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. We are into the second week of January, and here we're supposed to get snow tonight. So, yay! I just had to talk about how it was nice and warm here, and now we're going to get snow. And it's supposed to be cold for a while after that. So, yay! I'm not doing videos in the snow. No. Nope. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.